special meeting of the Board of Directors of the Granada Community Services District for Thursday, October 21st, 2021. And say that we have been in a special meeting and closed session, and now I'm adjourning the special meeting and I'm calling the regular meeting to order.
Matthew,
Thank you, Bill.
Matthew, there are no reportable actions from closed session.
Thank you. All right, let's do the roll call again, please.
Director Marsh?
Here.
Director Sukamel?
Here.
Director Dye?
Here.
Director Seaton?
Here.
And Director Clark? Oh, there you
Here.
go. Okay. So everybody is here, and Delia Camino, our Assistant General Manager, is here. I'm Chuck Duffy, General Manager, and Bill Parkin, our District Counsel, is here.
We will start, as always, with general public participation. Public members may comment on matters under the jurisdiction of the district that are not on the agenda. Would anyone of the public like to make any comments? Delia.
Yes, I just want to mention that we have our special local drop-off recycling day on this coming Saturday from 8 a.m. until noon. That's the 23rd of October.
Oh, good.
Rain or shine, by the way.
And that's what these.
Election day, January 6th, was the protest. Donald Trump is trying the election into history in the minds of his supporters.
I got it.
Okay. Any other public comments? Hearing none, we will move to the regular meeting agenda. Item 1, report on parks and recreation activities.
Okay, who wants to start? Maybe Delia?
Well, actually, I was expecting Nicholas Calderon to be reporting on the status of the bicycle pump track in Quarry Park. I did confirm that he would be here, but I don't know if he's having a problem with the link. I did send him the packet today, so I don't know where he is.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah.
Let's hope that he solves that, and we'll move to the next sub item. Director Dye would like to report on the Coastside Land Trust Junior Land Stewardship Program.
Yes, can I share my screen?
Chuck?
Yep. I am.
Recording in progress.
So today was the first field trip for El Granada Elementary School and the program, the education and recreation outreach program that they're having for fourth graders. This is the group of high school agricultural students, AP students, and their teacher who are going to be the mentors for the kids and be with them on all the various field trips. And they're outside the school here on that piece of property between the school and the ocean and getting ready to start their why is this frozen? Why is this frozen? Hold on. All right, let me try again. Okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna go try to screen share again. Hopefully I don't have to do this for every. So this is Haley Peterson, who's the director of the program, and again, the high school students who are the mentors. And then here's one little girl, very happy with.
Barbara, we can't see your screen.
Shared.
You've got to reshare.
Okay. Sorry. Come on. Why is this not working? It doesn't want to get me back to the Zoom. It wants me to join a meeting. All right, well, this may not work. I don't understand why. Well, that's too bad because I think it would have been fun to show you all these pictures, but now I can't even get back into the Zoom meeting. So.
I can go, Barbara, while if you want to play with that for a minute.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. I think I was next. Report on the status of the applicant interviews for the PAC vacancy. Oh, there's your pictures. Let's look at that.
Okay, so this is one of the little boys who's out there, interacting with and then here they are, they're putting down cardboard. And the idea is that's going to tamp down the vegetation and eliminate it. And then they will grow in their classroom the native plants that they will later plant there. Here they are collecting mulch and transporting it over to put on top of the cardboard. These two little girls are looking into the bush to see, there was a praying mantis, and they were so excited. They'd never seen anything like it before. And so they were seeing that yesterday. And then here they are spreading the mulch out on top of the cardboard. And this was the first class, and there will be another second class that will do it next to where these kids are. And to prepare the ground so that when they've grown their native plants, they can plant them there. And then this is the journaling where they're out with their high school mentors and they're looking for natural things. And for this walk, they're just outside El Granada Elementary School and looking at some of the native plants in the field, some of the bugs and so forth. And so they were all they were so excited about it and really loving it. So here they are drawing in their journals of things that they have observed out in the natural open space. And here she is, another little girl who's very busy writing in her journal. And then you can see them scattered around in their groups with their high school mentor talking about these things. And their next field trip, they'll go up to Quarry Park for a walk. So I think it's a great program and I think we should feel very good that we're part of supporting it. Let me close out of that. But I thought it might be fun for you to see it getting started.
It is good. Thank you. On the applicants for PAC, we have 3 applicants for our Parks Advisory Committee opening. They all look like very good applicants. I have been out of town 3 of the last 4 weeks, and the 1 week I was here, Eric had house guests. So we are delayed setting up interviews, but we set aside 2 days next week to do that. So tomorrow I will send a note to each of the applicants to advise them what the process is for selecting new PAC members, check their availability for the days that Eric and I have set aside to interview. And I'll also advise them of the PAC meeting that is scheduled for, I think it's November 3rd. And when Adelia and Pat have it, I'll send them the link. And so we'll invite them just to attend as members of the public, the PAC meeting, so they can see what happens there. And then we will make a recommendation at the next board meeting for new members. We, as happened the last time, we'll fill the opening we have with Paul Kolsch moving off the committee. And if all 3 of them look good, we will appoint the other 2 as alternates so that we have alternates, and really encourage the alternates actually to attend the PAC meetings, which they didn't previously. So that's where we are. We should have recommendations for your next meeting.
Okay. Great, thank you. Pat Tierney, would you like to share your screen?
I'll just talk right now, if that's all right, and then I'll share the screen in a moment.
All right.
First, wanted to report on the family movie night in Quarry Park, October 2nd. We finally hit a home run, I think, on this one. The weather was perfect. I was not there because I had a prior commitment, but I've talked to several people, so I can give I think an accurate report. There were approximately 150 people there. it did show how important it is to have an earlier start time. Our July 24th meeting had more people registered, but far fewer people actually attended. And this one had about 120 registered, pre-registered, and we had about 150 in attendance. So we learned something there. I just wanted to let you know some of the other things that were a part of it. The mountain bike club, Coastside Mountain Bike Club, was fundraising that night. They said they did very well. And the San Mateo County Parks Department had 2 rangers and provided the generator at no charge for the event. And Beach Break Entertainment, of course, was the organization that was contracted to operate the event, and they did a smooth job. Everything went well. Their contract was $2,300. And let's see, the makeup of the group in attendance was predominantly or more skewed towards adults, surprisingly, but we did have a big contingent of children. There was a volunteer from Half Moon Bay High School that helped out with the event, and they showed two movies, 2 short videos prior to the main event on that were put together by San Mateo County Parks, one on seal pups and the other on what rangers do. So everyone said that it was quite a success. So I'm happy to report on that one after our prior date being postponed because of weather. I thought I would share the screen now, if I might. This is a draft PAC work plan or work tasks for 2022. I don't expect you, nor can you, I understand, vote on it or say much about it, but I wanted to give you an idea of what we're thinking about for PAC activities. Everything from a fall youth accessible bike event. I'm working now currently with Corp to set that up. And if we can do that pretty quickly while we still have a reasonable weather window, a reasonable weather opportunity, we might do it this fall if it's supported by you all. And then, we'll do it certainly in spring, at least that's the proposal. Some of the other things that PAC plans to do is, unless we have a recreation position hired, then we'll again be central in terms of helping develop the brochure and activities and promote the 2022 recreation program, including movie nights that might be part of it. We have been maintaining the Parks and Recreation webpage on the district site, and we've also contributing articles into the newsletter, so that would continue unless there's a hire. We want to support efforts, your efforts on Burnham Park, so you need to let us know how we can help you with that. Some other ideas: supporting district in the development of a community center, and a community survey has been talked about. I'm not sure the timing of that. Another idea is exploring potential locations and costs for a small disc golf course. This is something that actually can be done potentially. We don't need a building to do this. And so this was a priority on the work list in 2017, 2018, and got bumped because of Burnham Park. So now we have an opportunity to go back and look at that. That was something that was highly regarded in the public meeting about Quarry Park. Another option, consider sponsoring an acoustic music festival in Burnham Park. one of the PAC members had put a lot of effort into this idea this year. It didn't quite work out, but that would need to be approved by you, but the PAC would probably put together the pieces and present a proposal. Bringing up another past priority of PAC, which was looking at a trail and amenities for median number 11, which is Portola Avenue. That we now have the time and opportunity to do that. And that's a possibility. Identify potential district co-sponsoring a running race starting and ending in Burnham Park. New ideas to consider to bring attention to the district's efforts. And then finally, exploring collaboration with Friends of the Park, Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Rec on building a community swimming pool. Nancy has been attending Half Moon Bay Parks Commission meetings. I've been attending the Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Recreation meetings. This is their #1 priority. They say they are a coast-side-wide organization. So let's take them up on it. So I think if we are going to be having a voice in this coast-side-wide community pool, then we should be trying to work with them a little closer, however that may work out. They are also Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Recreation, since they say they are a coast-side-wide organization. They're a 501c3, and they are very willing to work with us to help us in any fundraising that we may need in the future. So let's say we have a community center that needs to be outfitted with furniture or something like that. They could accept tax deductible donations to help us fund some future projects. So it might be a good thing to keep in touch with them. I'm going to continue to go to the Friends of the Parks and Rec meeting, and I can report back on anything that you would like us and them to consider. So those are some ideas. I would appreciate anyone passing these on to Nancy or me directly. Your idea, if you support any of those, if you don't, so that we can then discuss them at the November meeting. That would be appreciated.
Pat?
Yes.
Just one comment on your first point about the accessible bicycle event potentially in the fall. I believe that was on your list of potential activities for 2021 when the board reviewed and agreed that in the spring. So I think that's something that if you can organize it, you could go ahead with. It's already, we didn't have a date for it, I think, at the time, but it was already on the agreed list.
Great, thank you.
And brilliant work on the movie. I'm so glad. I was out of town, so I'm so glad that it was so well attended on that day. I would also encourage everybody to take a look at the Parks and Rec webpage if you haven't seen it lately. Pat and worked with Delia and Dudek on updating it, and it just looks so much cleaner. And I don't know, the font changed and everything, but it looks very, very clean and very accessible. So very nice job on bringing that up to date.
Barbara?
Hi, just one comment. One of the things that we've talked about that's been pretty successful is to have a monthly walk program. And I wonder if that could be added to the list to talk about. I said that I would work on it, but I've had a few things happen that have made me have a little less time lately. So it's something I'm interested in working on, but I'd like to make sure the PAC is on board with the idea and perhaps could be helpful with it.
Will do.
And I think number H, the trails, the median plans is kind of needs to be on hold until we resolve the ownership issues around the medians.
Okay.
Yeah, everything else I think was, because it wasn't on the agenda, we can discuss at the PAC meeting and then come back to November with the PAC's recommendations. Is that the plan, Pat?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Congratulations on the movie. It sounds like it was a great success. I couldn't make it, sorry, but very well done.
After all those tries, it finally is a home run.
Yeah, I think we learned how to be flexible and move dates, and particularly with all the partners. I mean, to get Beach Break and the county and the biking groups and us all going back and forth on dates. But I think we learned later in the year is better because you could start earlier and the weather's better.
And I might add that it was really a community event, very much so, with fundraisers for 2 different organizations, community youth organizations. And we had volunteers from the community. We had the fundraisers. We had Coastside Mountain Bike Clubs gave demos before mountain bike safety demos, and they had a mountain bike safety video that showed. So it was quite a few collaborators.
Nice partnership with the county too, as well, county parks.
I just want to mention, I hope everybody noticed the thank you card that we received from Beach Break Entertainment. They are interested in doing this in the future. And also to let you know, I think you might know already that I did a thank you card and a little gift for the county parks, which I delivered this week. So
Great.
That's great. I'd like to see this cooperation between the districts and the other public nonprofits around here. And the note that Beach Break Entertainment was most laudatory, and it's obvious that she would be happy to participate in doing this more. So yeah, let's keep this up. Well, we haven't heard from Nicholas, so I guess we'll have to move to the next item, which is item 2, consideration of civil engineering contract with BKF engineers for Burnham Park. And we need to get this going. So Chuck, do you want to address this?
Let me give a quick update on this. So as you all remember, Tom Conroy and myself, and mostly Tom Conroy, put together a request for proposals for civil engineering firms that he had, for the most part, worked with in the past. We received 3 proposals from 3 different companies. We reviewed the proposals, and then Tom and I think Barbara as well, focused in on BKF Civil Engineering to provide civil engineering services for the Burnham Park. They seem to have local knowledge. They understand their stuff. Tom has worked with them in the past, so that's always good news. So you know the players and whatnot. Their price seemed reasonable. So after we had selected them, I went back to them and said, give me a formal proposal for the price, because the price wasn't in the original request for proposals. So this is their formal proposal. It's about $165,000 plus some other direct costs. For the first phase of it, that will get us through a whole bunch of permitting, through the 65% drawing phase and whatnot. And that this will be coordinated with Tom Conroy throughout. And then the next phase of it, I think, is another $160,000 or so,
180.
Yeah, 180. So that will be phase 2 of the project. You know, this is a project that's going to cost some money. Obviously, these costs aren't out of line. You know, when I looked at it on a line item by line item basis, the big number kind of comes out at you 165, but none of the tasks themselves are crazy and out of whack. So, I'd recommend that your board approve the proposal. They've already started work on good faith, if you will. So this hasn't been holding us up. So that's good news.
I'm glad that you pointed out that there are other like ancillary costs that they mentioned that are not included, like a full title report they want, and a geotech report, which I'm surprised I think BKF could do that, but maybe they were hoping we already had one. There's a Chuck, at the bottom of page 5 of their proposal, under stormwater O&M agreement, there are 2 references to, we will work with the city and developer's attorney, and the next sentence, we have assumed that the city will record the final document with the county. I assume they mean the district.
Yeah, they do boilerplate on this stuff, and I see this stuff all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's, yeah. Having done a lot of boilerplate, I know exactly what went on. But
Okay,
if
I'll
we could
alert them to that. though.
just get them to change those 2 words, and I
Okay.
think we should go with it. Barbara, did you have a
Yeah.
comment?
I had a couple comments. Number one, I wanted to say that the RCD was also very helpful, the Resource Conservation District, in putting together the RFP, and that Matthew was part of the group that looked at the 3 proposals. And this proposal is by far the best, most detail, and seemed to have the most sense of the project. Yeah, I'd also noticed the fact of the title report needed. And also, I'm happy that one of their tasks is going to be to look at water sources and trying to figure out how we can use recycled water if possible for this project, because I think that's going to be something we really need to do.
Yeah, and
So I was-
I had added that in based on our conversations, Barbara, and I was more focused on well water to some extent, but
Okay.
whatever kind of water we can get that's not potable is the best.
Yeah. So it seems like a very detailed and thorough proposal. And the other piece is that toward the end on page 9, they say that the project will be permitted and constructed in 1 phase, and that construction phasing plans or interim condition plans will not be required. I know it is true that we may phase this project, so that's something I don't think that's in the initial work, but maybe that's something we should look at for the second part of their proposal, because I think we very well may want to do this in phases, and we may need their help in creating a phased construction plan for the property. And I'm curious what Eric thinks of all this as our expert environmental engineer.
I mean, I think it's a well put together proposal. I mean, BKF is, I mean, they're mostly, they were founded in Redwood City. I mean, they're local. They know the area. They do good work. Do we have a topo survey and a geotech report? Do we need to get those?
Well, part of the reason we kind of set that aside is because we've got a lot of work done by Sam for those wet weather storage projects. So I think we've got some geotech from that, and I'm going to coordinate, put them in touch with Sam or with SRT Engineering to get whatever they've got there.
Yeah, I would be. I hope Sam did a geotech analysis before they put those things in the ground.
And I know we have topo, because I remember we authorized topo for.
Yes, and that was cool. Quiet River did a whole survey of our parcel.
But they probably need to add the preschool parcel.
Yes, they did it. I think they included MPink, but obviously not the preschool.
So it's very exciting.
It's
This is
good.
coming together, and I think we had, and they're doing the multimodal pathway that's coming up on the east side of Highway 1 up to Wilkinson School. So they're involved in that project, which is going to connect to our project. So that's
Actually, Chuck, does Sam have good utility maps for the area too from their work?
They should, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's not many on that site. I mean, the majority of them are sewers.
Yeah, I'm more thinking about the street if we're
Yeah.
going to be doing improvements on the street.
Well, they had to
They also-
cross. They had to cross with 2 lines, so they should have something.
They
there.
should, okay, good, because I know potholing gets expensive fast.
I also
and-
really want us to look at undergrounding those wires that are along the eastern edge of the property. Because those are not, as I understand, are not electrical wires, they're cable and internet connections. So they're really hideous, and it would be really nice if we could get them.
I'll tell you that my daughter hit a power pole with a Suburban about 10 years ago, and the power company came out and replaced the pole and moved their lines immediately. They strapped the old pole with the cables on it to the new one and said it will stay there until the cable companies move their lines, and it's still strapped there. They don't tend to prioritize moving their.
I don't know if getting PG&E's attention or Comcast's attention would happen first.
We had that same experience right on our block. PG&E came up and put a twin, strapped it together with the one that was leaning over, and I think it was 6 years before they came back.
Was my understanding that it's not PG&E, it's the communications companies that are on our side, and so
I
it's
think
just
that
something I
makes
really,
I think it makes it even worse, but I know you want to look into it.
I definitely think
They
we
have
want
no
to look into that
motivation.
because they really, it really is going to affect the overall look of the park. So it's just.
That's worth looking into. I will say AT&T's on year 2 of putting in a cell tower down the road from my house.
Well,
Yeah, I just wouldn't want us to hold up waiting for it, but it's a good thing to pursue.
yes, exactly. So should I
We
move
need a
approval?
motion to
Yeah.
approve.
I just wanted to touch base to Nancy's comments from last month and maybe a little bit of Eric's as well. So I'd been in contact with our DUDEC people up, I think in the can't remember, Santa Cruz or another one of our offices. I don't even know where we are anymore. So
Oakland.
yeah, Oakland, okay. You know better than I. So to see if they could kind of act as project managers. And I went back and forth with them and had a conversation. The vibe I'm getting, it's not what they do. They're environmentalists, they do environmental work and whatnot. They're not really project managers. So I think if your board approves this BKF contract, I don't think I'm going to have a conference Zoom call with Tom Conroy and BKF and talk about, who's going to
K&K.
drive this. What's that?
Tom Conroy at K&K.
Yeah, at K&K, sorry, yeah. And talk about project management, who we can get to drive this along and whatnot, and we'll put our heads together and figure something out. So
Great.
Wasn't real
I actually had a
optimistic.
note, Chuck, that said, check on progress on local project manager.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, BKF might have that capability because often like the project civil kind of coordinates with everybody else.
And that's kind of what I thought, Eric, and that's why I said we'll get these guys on board and we'll see, if they can be that person. So hopefully.
Because I know
I've been on
you have too much on your plate
construction
already.
projects where BKF did take that role. But I don't know if they still do it. It's kind of a pain.
Let me put it this way. The projects I'm working with them on, they will do it, but the scope of those projects is orders of magnitude greater than the scope of our project.
All right. Yeah. Well, and in these stages, when you look at their task list, they are driving a lot of what's happening now. Tom Conroy's kind of done his, conceptual design. They'll be driving a lot of the work, a lot of permitting, a lot of that stuff. So they may become the de facto project manager. But like I said, it's worth having the conversation with them.
We'll need one for the community center too, Chuck.
Thank God I have a sense of humor, Nancy.
Okay, any other comments, worries, concerns, or motions?
We need a motion to approve.
Yes.
Yes.
I think I made one.
So moved.
Okay, second.
All right.
Oh, sorry, Barbara.
That's all right. You can make the motion. I'm fine with that.
Okay. I don't think there is more discussion. Chuck, we need a roll call, please.
Okay, Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Marsh,
Aye.
Director Sukamel,
Aye.
Director Dye,
Aye.
and Director Seaton.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, great. Now, here's a fun one. Item 4, report on sewer authority mid-coast-side meetings. There's an,
Item 3.
Skip 3.
You skipped number 3.
oh, that's the one I meant was going to be so fun. Yes, sorry. Item 3, discussion of SAM treatment plant process issues and non-domestic source control program. And there's a relatively major memo from Chuck on for this one, so go for it, Chuck, please.
Okay, I will take it away. So as I point out in my memo, and as you all know, because we've been keeping you updated, and Barbara and Matthew obviously have been at SAM meetings discussing all this. SAM has been chasing some treatment plant process issues for the past 7, 8, 9, 10 months. And I won't even label it that long because they've been sporadic at best. And I think you'll notice when I list this on my subject line, I call it process issues, not BOD issues, because as I've said to you all before, I don't think they have a real BOD problem, certainly not a long-term source problem coming from any of the districts, much less ours. So what I've tried to do in my board memo is summarize some of the things we've looked at in the past and really just put it down on paper so you can all take a look at it and see what exactly the data is we're looking at, what we're talking about and whatnot. So if you look at and maybe I'll share my, I will share my screen here. So if we just look at the bottom of my memo here, and I've highlighted the period of time from October 19th of last year to November 10th of last year. And if you look at the influent BOD column, you'll see a whole row of numbers, just to give you a rough idea of where plants operate at 300 to 400 BOD on an influent basis. They're generally designed for 300 to 350. So these numbers that you see in the influent BOD at that time are a little high, but if you look at the effluent BOD, they didn't really have a problem in mid-October. They had some high BODs here. If you look at October 20th, they had 689, 21st is 620, 734, 712. Those are all high influent BOD numbers. Some of them are double what you'd expect coming in. But if you look at the effluent BOD, there's not a corresponding leap from, I would say I've looked, I've analyzed this thing from here to kingdom come. I'd say their average BOD in their effluent over the past several years is 15 to 20.
And what's the limit, Chuck? Can you make it clear? What's
the limit is 45 as an average for any given week and 30 as an average for the whole month. So, you'll see later on when they say they had 4 violations in the month of October 2020, 3 of those violations were weekly violations. They exceeded 45, and then one of them was that all of it combined exceeded 30 for the whole month. So it's all part of the same problem. So if you look at the 20th, 21st, and 23rd, and you look over here, their BOD was 31, 71, 40, even with these high influent BODs. So there's not a direct correlation a lot of times. And these treatment plants are big biological masses. So they can absorb this stuff. And, when I spoke to my process engineer guy, and, he's the guy with the PhD who really understands the intricacies of this stuff. He says what happens is if you get high BOD in a plant, generally the bugs step up their eating, if you will, because, hey, there's more food, more bugs, they eat more. Now the process takes a while, and I don't know what a while is, but you don't get high BOD generally, and it just blows through the plant. You get high BOD coming in, and it takes a while, maybe a day or two to feel, make itself felt. So the real problems come along on October 28th, 29, this period right here. And you can see there's high BOD here on the 28th and 29th and 30th, but it's not crazy. It's 540, 530, 510, 381. But their corresponding effluent BOD has gone 142, 225, 227. That's really high. And you know, they shouldn't correspond like that. If you get an extra 300 BOD in your influent, it doesn't correspond that way directly. And then you'll notice they were having all these high influence, and then all of a sudden come November 5th down here, they had a 557 the day before, a 502 and a 531, and their BOD went down to 12 and 20. So there's something happening in the process, and we can't deny the fact that there was some high influence BOD, but they kind of righted the ship here, and that's kind of our main point. And when I look at this stuff, I put in my bullet point here. It's a 2-week period that the influent BODs were higher than normal, and they had a problem. I want to speak broadly here. If you look at this plant, and I know I've said it before, they had 15 years of bulletproof operation. They really didn't even have 2 bad weeks. They had 8 days right here where they didn't make their effluent BOD numbers. And because of that 8 days, it set off a string of, point source testing in Princeton and Half Moon Bay and Montara that cost, $500,000 plus for a bad 8 days. And maybe I'll flip right down to here. Again, here's the date. Some of this data was provided, well, most of it was provided to me by Kishin, and then I hand entered a bunch of this stuff. So you can see here in the top line, October 1st, we had 1,900 influent BOD. Effluent was 17. 940, effluent BOD 41. So seemingly they can get high BOD, and yet it doesn't translate out here. Barbara, I don't know if you'll remember, I told you they reported 3 violations in October. This is a violation they misreported. So they reported to the regional board that they had a violation. It's actually not a violation. They entered a number wrong. So they only really had 2 violations in October. But again, scrolling down, I'm looking at this stuff. They're all fine right here. They got 25, 27. It's a little bit high. It's higher than you want to see. They get back to October 20th when we start our thing that we just saw above. Here's their 2 problems in this blue area here. And then I'm going to scroll through quickly because now we're into November. We're into December. I've got 7, 9, 7s, 8s, all single digits. The influent BOD has come down, but here we are again, January 10th, 11th, 12th. The influent BOD is 530, 500, 550, and they're making 6s and 7s and 8s or 7s. So the plant seems to be able to handle it at any given period of time. Now, I don't operate the plant, so I don't know what's happening at the plant, if they're changing anything and things like
Have
this.
they moved it to tanks 1 and 2 at this point?
No, so sorry, yes, they have. So up to here, and I'm glad you pointed that out, Barbara. Up through here, they were using tank 3 somewhere in this time zone. After in November or December, they switched from using tank 3 with the older to tanks 1 and 2. So they went off 3 and went on to 1 and 2. And the plant was just running fine, no problems. The whole time, though, they've started this testing period. You can see in these last 2 columns. They started testing Princeton, West Point, Kelly Avenue. They tested 4 or 5 other places. I didn't want to show them to you because they're not really important. So here's the BODs that are coming through the sewer lines at Princeton, West Point in a manhole just in front of the Princeton pump station. Most of this stuff is downstream of the restaurants there, Barbara's Fish Trap, the Oceana Grill, whatever that's called, Half Moon Bay Brewery. The breweries are upstream of all this stuff. So they're higher BODs in the sewer system, but you'd expect that because that's what restaurants put out, higher BODs and as do breweries. But you plan for that because 95% of your flow in this kind of treatment plant is residential, which is probably coming out at 250, 300, something like that. So, we're into January, we're sailing along. here's an anomalous reading. You can't see the heading, but this is the effluent BOD. We had one stray reading of 200 on the 27th of January. When I mentioned this to Brown and Caldwell, they said, oh, you know, that could happen. I was like, no, that's just a bad test. You generally don't go from 8 to 200 to 19 in 3 days. Treatment plants are big systems once again. I can't swear to it, but we then went the next, for the entire beginning of the year of 2021, all the numbers are hitting. They're all good. They're all double digits, low single digits, 5s, 9s, 6s. We're swimming along until we get to June 1st. So June 1st, during the first 6 months of the year, they had taken the aeration basin number 3. They had removed the old coarse air diffusers, which simply blow big bubbles up into the aeration basin, and they replaced them with fine air diffusers.
No, it was fine air diffusers all along. They just put new ones in.
Okay, I'll believe you, but I thought the Brown and Caldwell report said coarse, but
No,
okay.
1 and 2 are coarse diffusers, because I had a lot of discussions of this, and I went and saw it when they were, and the problem was they put the same kind of fine air diffusers, but the new ones didn't fit. It was really complicated. No, it was always fine air diffusers. So they all they did is put new ones in.
So
didn't make any other
they removed fine air diffusers from 3 and put in
They
new
did.
fine air diffusers.
Exactly.
Okay.
It was running on 1 and 2, it was running on coarse air.
Yes. And, you know, and we've had this discussion of coarse air and fine air. People seem to like fine air better. I don't, it's oxygen transfer rate. So I don't know that it's better or worse. You know, I work with these engineers, they fall in love with technologies, and I don't know that we have empirical data for it, but
Boy,
so all of us,
this surprises me because I'm sure I remember at the meetings when they were discussing what to do about Basin 3, that the problem was that it was old coarse air diffusers.
yeah. Well, I don't want to prove Barbara wrong on air, so we'll wait till later.
So I just keep going back to every single time there's a date thrown out, it corresponds with fishing season. Like even right now, there's 2 dates you throw out. That was the start and the exact start and the exact end date of crabbing season.
What
When you
dates
threw
were
out
those, David?
November 2nd, and the last date was Dungeness Crab closes on June 1st. And it's just interesting that every time you've thrown out, even before I was looking at it, when we talked about it, was the opening date of salmon season. And I'm just wondering that they're getting overwhelming the system where they're not paying attention with that. And then they're catching up, and then it's kind of changing, because that would make sense in terms of those would be the 2 peak dates where everyone's trying to rush to get in and then get the last catch before they're done.
And I'd say that might be true, David, except for the fact that they open fishing season every year. And so if we saw this problem every year, I'd say, okay. To me, I look at June 1st, and they went from using aeration basin 1 and 2 to aeration basin 3. Now, you know, Matthew and I were trading emails, you know, correlation isn't causation and vice versa, but sometimes, you know, you went from using these 2 basins to a basin 3 with brand new diffusers that no one's ever used, and all of a sudden your treatment goes to heck. There's correlation there. And what I want to point out is in this June month, they got some higher BODs, but again, nothing out of the ordinary. And the problem in these months was the filamentous bugs. So these are the bugs that don't settle. You want your solids to settle to the bottom in a treatment plant in the clarifiers. These bugs don't settle. They kind of bind together and they stay in suspension. And that's when you get high BOD numbers and high total suspended solids numbers. I don't have a column for here. So it's just, you know, I just don't see the correlation between, you know, and if I go into July here, the influent BOD numbers are really low, and yet they're not making their numbers here. And they've had all kinds of problems. And I read through the Brown and Caldwell report, and I don't want to bore you with technical stuff that, you know, they're chlorinating their return, and Brown and Caldwell said, hey, you're chlorinating too much. And they actually mentioned in the report that might be part of the problem, because when you chlorinate too much in your biological mass system, you're killing the bugs that are part of the biology. So, you know, we go down here and we look at this stuff, and again, they didn't have a problem until they switched basins. They seem to have, again, righted the ship here in August. Low BOD numbers, they've righted the ship. I think they did a whole bunch of stuff to try and knock out the filamentous bugs. So in short or in long, I again say, we had 8 bad days at SAM, or 2 bad weeks at SAM in late October, early November. Then we had a 8-month run of perfectly fine treatment, and then they switched basins and the treatment went off. So that's kind of point number 1. What I'll now show is, of course, we all know they've targeted the breweries as the source of this alleged high BOD. So, you know, I put together an interactive spreadsheet here that kind of looks at what the BOD at the breweries could do. I don't think we have no proof that the breweries are causing any of this. There may be high source BOD in some of the districts. We don't have any proof based on flow measurements, based on BOD measurements, anything like that, you know, point the finger at the brewery. So if you look at my baseline study here, SAM's flowing at about 1.35 million gallons a day. You know, Princeton does about 100,000 gallons of that. So I plugged in a 655 BOD number for
Can you move
Princeton.
down in your report? All I'm seeing is the part before, not what you're talking about.
What? I'm sorry.
I'm seeing the dates from 8/10 down to 8/31 and not, I think you're interactive.
Oh. So you're still seeing this?
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank
All right.
you. Oh, too far. There you
Yep. I'm going to stop my share. Then I'm going to share. This. Okay, now this is the actual interactive, it's the actual spreadsheet. So you can see it, like I said, I plugged in 655 here. So that basically gets you to your plant BOD at 400. So I said, when you look at the water use for the breweries, at most they use 100 gallons a day. That's, you know, we pulled the water use record. That doesn't mean all of that goes into the sewer, it's what they use. So I said, I don't know, I'll go crazy. Let's say they use 2,500 gallons a day and the BOD is 5,000. They'll only move the needle by 9 milligrams per liter of BOD at the treatment plant. And these numbers that I'm plugging in are, you know, somewhat extreme. You know, if I plug in, it's 18. You know, I could do this all the time. If I put in a number closer to real life, like 500 gallons, the breweries just don't put out enough, no matter what their BOD, to move the needle in a substantial way at the treatment plant. Now, I've heard talk of magical slugs of BOD and people emptying giant vats into the system from the breweries. You know, and talking to the brewers, I only talked to them briefly. That doesn't happen. And you know, obviously any slug of BOD, if you emptied a 200-gallon tank that was high in yeast or something that would have a high biological or biochemical oxygen demand, it would mix with the other sewage that's going down there. It would go to the Princeton pump station, mix with sewage there. It would go to the Portola pump station, mix with Montera's sewage, the rest of Granada's sewage, head on down, meet up with the Half Moon Bay sewage, and then get into the two primary tanks, there's a lot of sewage it's mixing with before
What is the
that.
percentage of the plant's wastewater that comes from Princeton?
7.4%. It's right up here. So 7.4% of the flow goes to Sam. So I don't know where your board wants to go with this. There's a lot of issues out there. I just thought, well, I'll give Barbara credit. She asked me to put this on the agenda, so we had this in writing on paper, so we could just say, here's the numbers we're looking at. I don't see a correlation except for the fact they had a bad 2 weeks in October, November, and they switched aeration basins from 1 and 2 to aeration basin 3 with a new diffuser system. And, in Tim Costello's words, it worked well for 4 or 5 days, and then it all went to heck. And, Brown and Caldwell wrote 2 technical memorandums on this that I've read. They wrote their final report on this. They did a lot of stuff to try and do it. I might have just gone back to 1 and 2. I'm a simple guy. 3's not working. Let me go back to 1 and 2 and regroup. But again, I don't run the treatment plant. I don't want to sit here, and.
And how many sewer treatment plants do you run? How many sewer treatments do you run, Chuck?
Well, we run 7 right now, and I've run another 2 different ones, larger ones up at the Ramona Water District in the past, and they're all basically extended aeration plants, which is what the SAM plant is. And there's not a lot of moving parts on this stuff. You get that biomass going, you got to work pretty hard to knock it out, really. And this is a big plant. I saw someone call it a small plant. I guess it's not, Hyperion in LA or, whatever the Bay Area treatment plant is, but 1.3 million gallons is a large, flow, and throwing 5,000 gallons in of something bad shouldn't have that big an effect on it. It's, the solution to pollution is dilution, as we say. So I don't know, does anyone have any questions? Hopefully this made sense. I kept it simple. I don't know, Eric, if you want to weigh in. I don't know what your focus is in civil engineering, but how much you know about this stuff. But
it's not this, but I think your analysis is compelling. I mean, it's just a simple mass balance. Like it's, mass is flow and concentration. And if you don't have both, you're gonna have a high mass. So I mean, it's logical. And I mean, the breweries many of the breweries have been here for a long time. They're well established. And it gets back to your point, like if this was a problem related to the users have not changed that much. Well, Granada is a pretty sleepy town. Not a lot changes.
Right, right.
And
And-
2
So
of the
during this
targeted
period-
places.
Sorry, Barbara, during this period with the pandemic, they were actually doing less than they normally do, not more.
And 2
Yep.
of the Blue Ocean Brewery that's being targeted hasn't produced any beer yet. And the distillery wasn't even in business till, I think, May or
Recently,
June of this year. So they couldn't have been involved in the problem last December. And the winery hasn't produced any wine in 2 years. So
It seems to
well,
me this.
and I mean, and neither of our breweries are production. I mean, they're not production breweries.
tiny.
It's not the Budweiser plant.
Right.
And
Well,
on
and
our
the gu-
agenda for Sam for Monday is to spend $90,000 more on a consultant to figure out how to test the 10 businesses they've identified, 8 of which are in Princeton. So there's another $90,000 worth of testing that's about to happen.
It seems to me this type of analysis at least equips our SAM representatives with some data I'm sure that, that Chuck would give them this data for this analysis for less than $90,000. But I think it really, should be challenged with data. This is compelling data when you look at what changed on what days. There just isn't anything that points to these 10 businesses. I agree with the point that having what you call it, the domestic, non-domestic source control program is a good thing to have, but I don't think we should be targeting these guys as if they are potential problems when there just isn't any data to suggest that they are. And this Chuck notes not a lot of data to suggest that it's an influent problem in any consistent way at all.
And it's interesting, and I've got the RFP that Sam sent out when they hired Brown and Caldwell. And I've mentioned all this to you all before, but they asked 2 questions in the RFP, and one of them is capacity to deal with potential variations in high influent loading. So they're leading the witness, if you will. They're saying to Brown and Caldwell, hey, don't come in and just figure out what's wrong. We're kind of telling you what the issue is. Now go study this. And then the second bullet item is develop a report of findings for process optimization to address high variations in influent loading at the SAM treatment plant.
So it's all on influent.
It's all based on source and fluctuations in this, and nothing's changed. I'll echo Eric's point, which echoed my point from the. You can't just take BOD readings in the Princeton area and not correlate them with flows. It's useless. The plant loading is based, like he said, flows times BOD loading. So we just spent a lot of money taking things so people can hold up a piece of paper and, oh my God, we had a reading that was 14,000. Oh my God, we had a reading that was off the censor's chart. And I said, well, I can't say what I said, but you probably scooped up a really organic piece of material from the sewer when that happened. So if you start with a hypothesis, we're talking about confirmation bias the other day. You start with a hypothesis, you can back your way into it. They come to me and say, well, Chuck, there's point loading, there's slugs of BOD coming down here. None of it makes sense. And, I run treatment plants for a living and none of you do, but it's just data analysis at some point in time. You don't have to run treatment plants. You don't have to understand how they work. It's just kind of data analysis at some point. So
I'd also like to mention that Sam has now authorized implementation of Basin 4, which would be a second basin, the same size as Basin 3. It was what the plant was originally designed for, with fine diffusers. It's going to cost somewhere around, I think, $500,000 or $600,000. Brown and Caldwell recommended it for redundancy. And I have been asking for months and months and months for an answer to a simple question, which is, why do we need another basin?
right, and they categorically state, Brown and Caldwell.
Is it because we need to leave material in the basins longer, so we need more capacity?
No.
Is it because you're adding so much stuff to the basin that you need more capacity? Is it because we're potentially going to reach the highest amount of volume that comes through, and therefore we need more capacity? Or is it that we're thinking about future growth in Half Moon Bay and a little bit in the other 2 places, and therefore we need more capacity? And the answer I got from Brown and Caldwell, I've gotten a few verbal answers, but I've never gotten anything in writing. And the answer I got from Brown and Caldwell is absolute gobbledygook. Like, oh, there's a chart and we have to do this and there's a high this. And it's very frustrating. And we have approved adding this additional basin for redundancy. So.
And in the Brown and Caldwell report, they categorically state that the plant cannot run on Basin 3 alone. And I sat and I said, well, I've got 15 years of it running on Basin 3 alone. And their new plan is, I think, to put Basins 3 and 4 online. That's one of the options on a permanent basis, and have Basins 1 and 2 as a backup redundancy, if you will. So, but you know, I'm not an engineer, and I won't speak wise on engineers because Eric's in the room, but sometimes
you are my feelings.
they love this theoretical, and I just look at it and go, here's the empirical. We've run on basin 3. You ran fine on basin 1 and 2. You know, what are we fixing that's not broken? So.
And it's
Some
also.
things is fun, Chuck.
It drives
I do have one question, Chuck.
I
Do
see
you
both
know,
sides, Eric.
for this, I was just curious about the Kelly Avenue data in Half Moon Bay.
Good question.
I'm just curious, like how much flow is that from Sam's perspective? I mean, those numbers don't seem any different than the Princeton numbers.
And I've made that argument before, and I don't know what that answer is. But you know, you guys all know Kelly Avenue is taking, I would imagine, a good portion of downtown, you know, Half Moon Bay.
So probably 50% of the flow of the plant.
No, I don't want to go that far, but I
Okay,
don't want
40.
to. I won't. Yeah, I won't. I'm
It's
sure
probably a good chunk of the commercial flow into the plant.
exactly, and that's kind of what's important. It's kind of like their Princeton, and you know, it's got the high BODs. I've purposely tried not to do that, to be honest with you, because I don't want to start pitting, you know, but it may come down to that because we look at this and we go, you know, Princeton's at 650, but Kelly's at 600, or, you know, depending on which average you want to pick. We're in spitting distance of each other and no one's turned an eye toward Kelly, but I'm trying not to make this about that, but it may come down to this of, you know, hey, and again, it's this irrational thing. Forget about all this stuff. Let's pretend there was a BOD problem. It's silly to pick on 6 breweries or 8 breweries or 6 breweries and a Romeo fertilizer packing plant and ignore the entire downtown of Half Moon Bay or any other businesses in Granada or Montara. So a real non-domestic source program looks at all non-domestic sources. So, and I'm glad you, I'm sorry to keep going, but I'm glad you brought that up, Nancy, because I do believe, yes, we do need a non-domestic source program. It's just good, prudent planning, as I say in my agenda memo. And, you know, we're certainly going to have one now because it's in the regional board's radar. So.
And so did you want us to take any action on that, Chuck?
On what? My report?
No, well, your report and or any role we might play, because at this point, the non-domestic wastewater source control program is everyone has agreed will be run by SAM. But is there a role that GCSD could play in helping to implement it in a more, perhaps a more equitable way?
And I would probably work, if we were going to go down that path, I would have to have conversations with probably John Dowdy at Half Moon Bay, because he and I have talked at length about that. You know, they're no happier, you know, to some extent, I don't think, having Sam run the program than we are. You know, it gets heavy-handed and whatnot. So, but I would certainly coordinate that with him. He and I had talked about that, you know, hiring Mark Thomas, who they use currently for some of their fog stuff, fats, oils, and grease program. But, you know, I want to see what comes out of Sam. That, you know, to someone's point, the guy they're hiring, Leo Schemp, is again a guy we've worked with down here for 25 years. He ran the Leucadia Wastewater District's treatment plant. He teaches courses at the local community college, and he was the wastewater the pre-treatment specialist at Stone Brewing, which is not quite Budweiser, but a heck of a lot bigger than, you know, Jetty Wave or Half Moon Brew Distillery or whatever. So I'd probably say I would talk to John to see if he's got any further thoughts or input. And, you know,
I thought you wanted us to think about putting in an education program.
Oh, I did, absolutely. But
Well,
yeah, I think we should do that, and we should start getting something in place. We'd have to hire somebody to do that, and it'd probably be a Mark Thomas. But again, I've talked with John Dowdy about that, and we would do that in conjunction and put together a program so we're not all doing different things. We want to have some, you know, I'm going to ruin the word. Consensus on what we want to send out to all our non-domestic people.
And I think it's really important that we represent our ratepayers, and making sure that they get a fair deal on this is I feel like part of our job as elected.
Absolutely, especially when it just seems, you know, just random and egregious, quite honestly. Again, if Sam went out and said, I'm going to look at all 95 of your non-domestic people and all 150 at Half Moon Bay, I go, all right, it's overkill, but it's part of a program. That's what you've got to do, to just keep focusing on these breweries, on data that's not correlated with flow. I'll stop talking now.
Can I make a comment as a ratepayer of the district? I think that this whole situation has been entirely blown out of proportion. I've heard some of the other public agencies meetings and their comments, and they were just over the top. But I think the amount of money that's being spent is just sickening. As a ratepayer, it just makes, you know, my stomach hurt, because money's being thrown away that doesn't need to be spent. I looked at the proposal from Monday, and I looked at the amount of hours that they have for issuing permits. If we're only talking a handful of permits, we're not that big of an area. How could it take 30 hours? I mean, that doesn't, the majority of the time that they're going to spend is scheduling and going out and, you know, doing the inspections. But the proposal that I saw in the packet for Sam is just outrageous. It should be cut in half. I just, seems really ridiculous. It's just such a small number of businesses they're dealing with. I don't see how they can validate that amount of money being spent. And that's just my 2 cents as a ratepayer. So thank you.
Chuck, I have a question and another one from a member of the public. On your after your memo, there's the long table, 6 pages of data, and there are a lot of big blank spots.
Yes.
Is that because that data doesn't exist?
Yes,
Is it
because
too
that data,
cumbersome to enter, or they test this every day, right?
so they're required, I believe, and I'm taking this from memory, I believe their regional board permit or their or the national permit requires them to test twice a week at a minimum. So you can always test more, but it requires them to test BOD twice a week. So those gaps in data are truly gaps. I don't, you know, I did get tired of entering data, but not not to that extent.
Okay, and then the question from the public was, can Chuck present at the SAM meeting on Monday? And I have to say that as far as I've known, been on the board, I've never heard of or witnessed one of the member agency managers come and essentially testify at a SAM meeting. And I don't know that it would do much good, but there's the question.
I don't think it would do much good. The problem with all this stuff is they've targeted us, and you know, Kishan has heard me say this in our managers meeting ad nauseum. I just had a managers meeting on Wednesday, and I repeated it ad nauseum, and I said I just added the data from June, July, and August, and it makes my case, I don't even say my case, the case, even stronger. And then you know, only half jocularly, you know, it's like Jim from Mutual of Omaha, you know, we sent Chuck into the lion's den to see, right? So Chuck doesn't want to go there. Chuck's been there, right?
I mean, I insisted that they have a meeting months ago with Brown and Caldwell to go over this data, and they just refused to believe it.
And you know, we had a meeting, God, yeah, it was 4 or 5 months ago, but
yeah.
They who's paying them? Not me, right? So they've put their report together based on what Sam told them to do, they've got their hypotheses. They're gonna, that whatever they say is gonna back into that. So,
Yes, and this is their data. You are just using their numbers.
this is
correct?
Sam's data, correct? And like I said, I corrected some of their data. That one they submitted to the regional board, they put down 59 instead of 49, which doesn't sound like a lot, except it's enough to cause the average to pop above 45, so. But yeah, I did find a lot, I won't say a lot, more than several discrepancies in the data from what they put in their spreadsheet to what they submitted to the regional board, because I actually pulled what they submitted to the regional board as well.
Okay.
And I think Matthew and I, as your SAM representatives, just feel like we've been trying and trying and trying to have a reasonable outcome. And I don't know, I feel like I've failed as far as that goes. And it's been trying to get this data to get a really good review and a look at it. I mean, and I'm no engineer. I don't know this stuff, but I look at the numbers and I look at what Chuck's saying and it all makes sense to me. So, and the experts with Sam just won't, they just, I don't know. So let's see what happens. I'm not sure. I don't think I'm going to vote for this $90,000 on Monday, and we'll see what happens.
No, yeah, it's been very difficult. You can't make people listen when they won't.
Yeah.
So and I've also had informal feedback about you're just defending your own breweries in there because you guys are clearly guilty. And it's, so you get that sort of I was going to say analysis, but it's not. It's not analysis. It's they personify this stuff, and it's really hard to get them to listen. And they're and Chuck just mentioned a couple of things that are in the Brown and Caldwell report about how they use too much chlorine, and it's very subtly stated in the report, and how the lack of an ongoing normal fog program can cause these kind of problems as well. And as far as I know, I brought this up 2 meetings ago. As far as I know, Sam is still not back to the level of fog control, the cleaning, etc., and even checking that they were before this all started. So, but it just doesn't ever seem to make a dent. So I too, I'm not voting for another $90,000 for this because it's too much money has already been spent to go down the wrong road, as far as I can see.
Right, again, for a plant that had 2 weeks of problems, we spent $500,000 in testing and reports, and it's going to lead to another $500,000, and
In
but
a new basin that no one can explain in plain English to me why we need it.
And no one has ever said no other plant has this problem.
right.
Every other plant runs perfectly, and Sam is. This is a crisis that we're in because of what occurred, and I just don't feel that's an accurate approach, and it takes you to the wrong actions.
Yeah.
And I will say that the SAM staff has worked very hard on this. They have put in extra time and they have been there, but I think maybe it's trying to solve the wrong problem. It's been trying to solve the wrong problem with we just need to, it'd be really great if we can figure out a way to move forward in a way that really is a right way forward, and we stop spending money on a problem that it seems doesn't exist.
I agree.
Right.
Okay, would anyone else like to speak to this? I think now we can go to item number 4, which I don't really have much to say. Do you, Barbara, about the SAM
No,
meeting?
but I do have one piece of good news, which is that at the Finance Committee for SAM today, I think we have agreed that the $27,000 outstanding charge to SAM is going to be removed, and we are just now waiting for the correct language from the lawyers and the accountants of how to phrase the motion to do so, so that it is not written off as a bad debt, because it's not, it's a correction. And I have to give some compliments to Delia on this, but a few compliments to Delia, who has worked really hard on this subject and has really, really excellent documentation and was able to make the case that this was an error, a billing error to GCSD, and Sam was not able to make a counter argument, and has the other members of the committee from the other 2 agencies have agreed that once we get the correct language, we will correct the situation.
Great. And
Yes.
I go farther. I give Delia many kudos for this. She's been on this.
Giving her kudos.
She's been on this since it arose, and pounding on it. I mean, and not letting it go. And finally, it's they're going to fix the problem. And it is truly, it's a correction. And why it's taken this amount of time, I don't know. But without Delia's efforts, this would have been memorialized for the next decade. So thanks, Delia.
You're welcome. My big concern is it really is a very simple issue. And why, again, it's like everything with Sam, it gets blown out of proportion. We have the facts right in front of us. We have the minutes. We know it was approved through the budget process, through the amendment process. We know what the numbers are. And they just refuse to take that information and make it logical and fix their system. It's just been really ridiculous. I don't know how many times I said the same thing over and over to how many different people over the past 3 years, and it's taken this long to get something. And they still can't even really pinpoint the problem. They're not willing to pinpoint the problem in their system. So to me, my concern is that their system still is wrong. And I just hope that going forward, we don't have any more amendments that mess things up, because I would hate to have to go through this again. So, but thank you, Barbara and Matthew, for your help in getting this fixed.
I do want to say in Sam's defense that they have new accounting person at SAM who is good, and they have made a lot of progress in the last 2 years. It was the previous
I
general
agree,
manager
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
staff who left everything in a terrible
Right.
state.
But again, the issue is we have the numbers. You can go back and look through the minutes, and in the staff report that they presented at the finance meeting, they're saying we don't have this information. Well, yes, you do, and that's the frustration for me. They have the information. They just, I don't know. It was frustrating, but thank you, and I'm glad that it's been resolved. We finally made it.
Yeah, I'm happy. So my only comments on other SAM meetings is that when you go through the virtually daily logs, or literally daily logs, it's the SAM people do need to be commended as well. They are working like
Yes.
crazy
They are.
on this on these problems, and keeping the plant running within parameters that it should have. And so it's not like they threw up their hands and said we can't solve this and went home. They've been working very diligently on it, and good for them. And this has been the dominant topic, of course, but we'll have to talk about the money some more. So anything else, Barbara, on SAM?
No.
All right. Let's move to the consent agenda, which is item 5, September 16, 2021 special and regular meeting minutes. Item 6, October 2021 warrants. Item 7, August 2021 financial statements. Item 8, quarterly LAIF investment report. And item 9, the assessment district distribution, that number 3-21/22. I have one question. When will we stop having the district distribution, assessment district distribution thing, on this list?
That's a good question. We will actually continue to have expenses, I think, indefinitely. As far as the reimbursement goes, which is what you're seeing on this distribution, that will probably stop at the end of this fiscal year when the bonds are paid off. And I will maybe discussing that with our new bond counsel to find out if we really want to be credited for any overhead at that point. Staff does still deal with the assessment district for permitting process, and then that will continue even after the bonds are paid off. So, you know, there is some work involved that are related to the assessment district when we issue permits. So whether we want to continue to, you know, write off some of the, or basically have the assessment district pay, I don't know how they will when we're not collecting anymore. So yeah, it's kind of a weird situation, but that will probably stop at the end of this year.
Thank
One of
you.
the things that could be useful related to that is if we had on our website somewhere on the sewer page or the home page, just a short primer on how that assessment district works and its impact on your property tax bill. It's one of those ratepayers who's impacted by it. It tends to come and go. And I don't
There
want you
won't
to
be any
complain
more.
now.
There won't be anything on the tax bills anymore.
Well, it's on my current tax bill.
Yeah, we put one on this year. We didn't put anything on last year, but this is the last year. But
Okay.
the bonds will, the last payment for the bonds will be September of 2022. So we
Okay.
will not be putting anything on the assessment roll after this year.
Okay. It would just be good if there was a, a 2-paragraph primer on it
Okay.
somewhere.
Yeah, I think we can say, hey, it's paid off or something and explain, it's been 25 years. So it's, yeah, but how we're going to move forward with the assessment district is going to be kind of interesting. I have yet to figure it all out. Anyways, we'll report on that. Chuck and I will when we know more.
I laughed, Nancy, because there's nothing simple about this assessment district.
Yeah.
But Delia explained it to me once, but it's been a while. And so
Yeah.
it takes a while to imprint.
Yeah, just the title of the name of the district is almost impossible to understand.
The integrated financing district layered onto the assessment district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Does anyone want to take any items from consent for discussion? Or any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
I just gave one. I just made one.
Barbara just did.
Move approval.
Oh, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. No more discussion. Let's have a roll call, please.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Marsh,
Aye.
Director Sukomel,
Aye.
Director Dye,
Yes.
and Director Seaton.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, item number 10, committee reports. Do we have any? Hearing none. Item number 11, attorney's reports. Bill. You're muted, but you're
Sorry
nodding.
about that.
You're
Yeah,
saying no.
no report.
Okay.
It was stuck.
Item number 12, general manager's report.
I've got nothing further.
Item 13, administrative staff report. Delia.
Nothing further, but I do need someone available for signatures tomorrow on checks.
What's tomorrow, Friday? Give me a call.
Okay, thank you.
Or I can do it if Matthew can.
Okay. Item 14. The engineers report.
Anyone have any questions on that? Barbara? see
I
you
was just
there.
gonna say, note that trenching is gonna be starting on Airport Street for the sewer, the mainline extension sewer for Big Wave. So there'll be some construction going on there. And all of our other projects, it seems, are now successfully completed for the sewer replacements within El Granada and the relocation of the Murata sewer line and the Murata Road extra project that we did to replace the sewer line. So excellent work. Well done.
Yes, and I don't want to take credit for it. I want to give it to John Rayner and his
Yeah.
guys at Kennedy Jenks. They did a great job prosecuting that project. And we were actually going to have them do a little summary for this meeting, but John's enjoying his quasi-retirement too much. So, so we'll have to get him when he comes back. He's on another 3-week trip somewhere.
Actually, he did, just to mention that John Rayner did attend the pre-construction meeting with the Big Wave people over there before they started the class 3 main line. It's a very short line. The majority of it is now going to be all on the private property side. So it's just a very short extension, but John was there for their pre-construction meeting. So
Okay, good. He's back.
And I want to also say I'm really happy. I thought I would never see this phrase in an engineer's report. Sewage no longer flows over Medio Creek. Yeah, this is very good. I do have a question, Chuck, on the 6-year CIP. Devaney Engineering had some change orders, and we haven't resolved apparently what the costs would be. Do you have any idea what we're talking about? Is it?
No, I'd have to. No, he didn't alert me to anything significant. John did, so I don't think it is. But
there were actually some change orders that were not done by Delaney. They were done by Golden Bay, and they raised a manhole. There were some minor other little things that we needed to have done. And I believe it was Golden Bay that did it. I could be wrong, but that's what I believe was the case.
Oh, it's actually both, according to John. Yeah, Golden Bay they went the sewer replacement in front of the Miramar Inn on Murata Road. That was done as a change order to the contract for Naples Beach.
Right, they replaced the sewer lines down there, just north of the bridge. Yeah.
Yeah, and they raised a manhole on the Alameda. Yeah, and that was a different change order. And Golden Bay did good work and fast, and they're local, so that's also good. Moving on to future agenda items.
I would still like us to have a better, a future budgeting meeting about, phasing and when we're thinking how much various things are going to cost and when we'll do what. And I think Nancy has some ideas in this respect. So at some point.
yeah, and Delia and I have talked a little bit about that, and Delia put together a nice summation of the property tax that we received, which she and I haven't had a chance to discuss at length. But we will get into that. Let me put that higher on the list.
So I see on here, next month's meeting, we're going to have the amend the fee resolution is scheduled for next month, as well as the composting requirement. On the composting requirement, does that mean Chris or Recology will have something to present for us?
Yes. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Delia.
Well, I was going to let you explain, but Chris has basically provided us with a resolution and a contract with the county that we have to get into place before the end of the year in order to comply with the new law that takes effect on January 1st. So I believe you'll be seeing a lot of trash issues coming up here for November and possibly in December as well, so.
Okay, great. Anything else? I think this meeting's
Nothing for
over.
me. Okay,
Hey,
All right. we
Thanks,
will
everyone.
adjourn.
thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
for everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.